Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa Ford, founder of the Australian Centre for Meditation and Mindfulness, and I'm joined today by Janet Etty-Leal. I've attended a couple of Janet's workshops and I've had the pleasure of serving alongside her on the board of Meditation Australia. Janet is an author, speaker and mindfulness educator, and she's taught creative, holistic mindfulness practices to both adults and children for more than 20 years. Her consultancy, Meditation Capsules, has provided mindful life skills programs for corporate, health, sport and community organisations and more than 100 schools and educational organisations. She's called to speak nationally and internationally as an expert in teaching meditation and mindfulness to children. She participated recently in the Meditation Australia conferences, the Meditation Australia Masterclass series, in the Positive Schools National Summit, and in 4 global mindfulness summits with Dr. Helen Maffini and Dr. Christopher Willard. And we are so blessed and fortunate to be bringing her Mindfulness for Children teacher training into the offerings at the Australian Centre for Meditation and Mindfulness. So it is such a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you so much for joining me, Janet.
The pleasure is entirely mine, Lisa. Thank you for inviting me.
So what I love about meditation teaching is that it's a career that feels so personal. You know, it's a whole life practice. So I'm wondering, what was the impetus for you to start teaching meditation and mindfulness to children? Was there something specific in your life that brought you here, or what was it?
Yes, I can really pinpoint almost the times in my life and it's interesting because it's not just a date line, it's very much a heart line, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for me, first and foremost is my love for children, because my background is that I worked for many years as an art teacher and with children in secondary level, but that began to expand with my work, and it expanded beyond art. I found myself involved with drama and, getting interlaced in my work with other fields. And so that was one of the key catalysts. And then the other catalysts were quite personal. When I was very young, I started school at a very young age, well below a year under the average age of the class. And I was, for whatever reason, I was sort of diagnosed as having a significant learning disability. And that really felt to me like a dunce's hat. I really got this strong sense of limit and that I was different to everyone else. And they actually used to remove me and a few other students from the mainstream. And this went on for quite a long time in primary school, but unfortunately the kind of stigma and the mindset of limit continued well into secondary. And that really, I realised, has been a huge catalyst, because I would do whatever I can to help children discover their worth and their possibilities. So those are the two. And then the actual tipping point, there was an absolute tipping point, was that in the rich tapestry of life, I ended up with mental illness myself, and which was quite an intense experience. And I saw a lot of therapists, and I saw one psychiatrist who actually, this sentence changed my life. He actually said to me, do you have any children? And I said, yes. And he said, we'll be meeting them one day.
Oh, God. And Janet.
I can viscerally remember that. I can remember the room I was in. I can remember every hair on the back of my neck seemed to stand up. And he did me a favour, Lisa, because so I thought, well, I will do anything to avoid my children going down that path. And that became my life's work. It would have been much easier to just go back into the art room because I knew what I was doing. But I just had this zealous, like a missionary way, that I was going to, really use the learning and the journey and all the skills that helped me get off medication and get back into my whole body as my life's path, and it did. So he
Wow.
probably did me a service by saying that.
It
I don't
sounds
know.
like
Yes, go on.
Sounds like you have such deep, passionate purpose and such a strong sense of why you're doing this work, both as a teacher, which obviously brings great structure and understanding to the work that you do, but also, from a mental health perspective and from an understanding of the experience of a child, just being able to put yourself in a child's shoes is such a gift. And it sounds like you do that really, really beautifully. So from that perspective, and especially, I suppose, coming from the perspective of a teacher and your own journey, your own life journey, how do you put that together to think about how to teach meditation and mindfulness to children? What are the key things that you've brought into your teaching from those experiences?
It's interesting at the point I'm at now, Lisa, looking back, and I realise I am indebted to my art education training, my teacher training, because there are absolute skills to teaching anything to anyone, really. And so that gave me a really wonderful foundation, and I'm so grateful that I had not only the art education training, but the years of teaching art. And I taught very widely. I taught every year level in secondary, and I taught
Perfect.
craft, Lisa. I mean, gosh, some people wouldn't sort of register craft.
Yeah.
I used to teach spinning and weaving. So it was a whole, and graphic education, art history. So that really gave me a rich foundation. Um, and so that I brought into my work with meditation and mindfulness. And I really think that it is so important that it captivates children. It's not at all about rote learning anything. It's just giving them rich, visceral experiences and engaging them fully. So I feel like the art background has served me extremely well.
It sounds like you have a way of being able to bring magic into the work that you do, which I imagine is so engaging for children.
It always, and I feel absolutely humble, Lisa, with every lesson I take, because I go in armed with my plans, but my work is very much uh, engaging children and giving them a sense that it's not my class, it's their class.
Wow.
Often it actually strays from the path of what I intended. But I would never go into class without my plan. But I just love, because I've always taught with an inquiry-based approach. So I am prompting their inquiry. I'm actually guiding their discoveries. And this is really important because every child has a unique mind, a unique life. And it's so important that they feel connected, that they really join their own dots, and it makes sense to them. It makes sense at the, frontal cortex level, but it goes deeper than that. It lands in their heart. And so that's essential to me.
It sounds like you're offering children the opportunity to develop their own mastery and that they can really own what they're learning.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And from that foundation, if all goes well, they will want to practice. It won't be it won't be a discipline.
Yeah.
It will actually, they will see, they will know it. And this is a big thing too, because we can all get stuck. We sort of prize the concept of self-knowledge, but it can be a dangerous thing, because the concept that we have of knowledge of ourselves can be quite limited, as I know only too well. So I want to prick bubbles of belief and get them. If I think of the character strength that is the key character strength that I'm always, having in my mind, myself personally, but also for them, it's curiosity. Because we all need to be lifelong learners.
Yeah.
And it's not about a set grid of self-knowledge. For me, it's actually about practicing knowing yourself, because we change. They're growing up. They're changing rapidly. Their world is changing and our world's changing. So we can't get too fixed on what we think we know. I mean, of course, there can be a solid core of knowledge, but we need to keep this curiosity. And when we do that, we're not as liable to get stuck in judgment of ourselves and judgment of others.
Mm. It sounds like your approach to teaching is flexible and responsive to the needs of the children, which must be so nurturing to the children.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so important to be, with every lesson, to be absolutely present with them and where they are at that moment, because who knows, could be a windy day. Windy days affect children.
Yeah.
What went on before? What's happening in the school? Or at home, what's happening, how stable is home life. So there's so many contributing factors into what state they're in.
Yeah.
And not to mention that when you have a class of children, you really have to pitch at a number of levels, because they all have their own preferences, their own learning styles. So every lesson I plan, I have that in mind, so that by the time the lesson is finished, they have had a range of experiences, not just one practice or one approach. It's actually like hoping to capture them all in the net, and that something has landed for them personally.
Yeah. It sounds beautiful, Janet, and also very complex and intricate. So how does your meditation capsules program address these things?
Well, my program actually starts, and this is, something that I constantly revisit, and I never want to rest on my laurels. I want to keep learning and crafting and evolving the work. But it's funny, because that first book I brought out is up to 10 years old, and I fortunately can still look at it and not sort of cringe. I'm still quite happy with the sequence, because I actually think you have to begin at the very outset, making sense, helping children understand why we're doing this, and the why, the personal why, sort of meeting that. And also giving them this is interesting, because some mindfulness programs for adults and children, very much head-centric, brain-centric. But I look, the brain's fabulous and it's magnificent, but there's so much more to us than our brain. And the more that I go on my journey of life, and the more that I ponder this, we don't just have one brain, we have three. And this is ancient wisdom. We have this brain, we have a heart brain, and very big gut brain. And so it's really becoming aware of the whole. And so I actually spend time, depending on how long I've got with this particular group of children, really reminding them of this magnificent equipment that is our birthright, that we are born with. And so therefore, if they start to tune into that, they're more likely to become loving custodians of this body and mind. And then, all being well, when they get a bit older, less likely to want to damage it, more likely to want to eat well and care for it. That's my aim.
It sounds, and this is the time, isn't it, from when they're little, to build those foundations and those core beliefs about their relationship with themselves and their body. That sounds so beautiful. I love that you bring such a holistic, heart-centered approach to your work. And I think that's what makes such a great fit between your approach and your work and the work we do at the Australian Centre for Meditation and Mindfulness. And I'm so happy that you're going to be providing some meditation teacher training specifically aimed at people wanting to teach meditation and mindfulness in schools. Can you tell us a bit more about that training?
Yes, well, it's literally on the board. I'm having such fun putting it together. It's interesting because one of the skills that I used to, or one of the modalities that I love personally and taught, as I said, was weaving. And so and I might quote Rick Hansen here, is one of my, you know, incredibly highly respected teachers and continues to be. And in his latest book, Neurodharma, in the opening pages, he describes the mind as an enchanted loom. How wonderful. So this course is like an enchanted loom for me. So we begin with the why. There are basically, as it's panning out, there are 4 units. The first unit is really spending quite a bit of time pondering the why you've come to this course, why you want to teach mindfulness, what mindfulness means to you, and then what are the qualities that can be nurtured and cultivated, and then even going into remembering the whole body and beginning to get a sense. And I'm very much developing the course in the same way that I teach children, of not saying, here's the Bible, take this Bible and off you go. It's not about that at all. It's about, for every individual person that comes to this course, finding their authentic, unique way, because then their teaching will shine and it will be coming from their heart, not just rote learning something, not just parroting whatever I'm saying, but really doing their own inquiry. So the first unit's the foundations. The next unit is the possible, exploring the what and the content. So, and this is, I'm going to give a lot of information, all that I can. I want to be extremely generous with this course. So I'll be giving a lot of information, and what each student will be doing is weaving their loom, weaving their tapestry of what speaks to them. And that will, of course, depend who they want to teach, where they want to teach, what the structure of their course or lessons will be. And then the third unit is the how of the practices, not 1 or 2 practices, but a palette of beautiful practices. And so I'll be taking them through a range of how I work and what I use. And then the final unit will be more business information about possibilities for promotion, marketing, and writing proposals, that kind of thing.
That will be so useful for people, I imagine, wanting to work in the school system, but maybe they don't have any experience of how the system works, the kind of language to use, the kind of the most effective way of approaching a school. That sounds amazing, Janet. So it's going to be an amazing package, Janet. I'm so excited. And it's been so inspiring to talk to you today. I can see the passion and the excitement coming through in this course, and it's going to be a wonderful gift for the whole community and the whole world to be able to have your teachings available in this way for everyone. So thank you very much for making it available.